And to now transition into a profession that isn't seen that way by society is very hard, because I know, like, I've had cousins at family reunions or family gatherings be like, wait, you went to Stanford and now you're a teacher? How does that work?
Yeah.
Because society doesn't see it that way. And kind of, making the transition from being, I'm used to being the best, I'm used to being the top. And as an adult, some of that success, some of that hierarchy translates immediately to money, right? That's like how a lot of people define success. And being able to be comfortable in, like, yeah, when I graduated Stanford, I was like deciding between career in tech or going to education. So like, one is obviously you're going to make more money. One is obviously like, and I made that decision my senior year graduating, got my master's in education to be this like math teacher, start being a educational leader, principal, try to climb that ladder. But in the back of my head, there's always this nagging question, like, you could be in tech, you could be somewhere else, you could be making twice as much money that you're making 3 times, 4 times.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Elevate1 podcast. This is going to be a super awesome episode as we kind of dive into things and get an awesome host who actually is a part of the company. This is my business partner with Elevate1 Media, and getting to dive into his story and kind of how we became, what we are in our relationship. Is super exciting. So I want to take the opportunity to welcome on as the host someone who will also be a host. So it's an awesome privilege to welcome on Gabriel Hernandez. How you doing?
Cool. I'm doing good, man. It's good to be here.
Man, so as we get into this, man, let's kind of start off with, what do you do now? And then we'll get into kind of the origin of your story.
Cool. I am currently a high school algebra teacher, and I'm finishing my principal program this semester. So I can start next year as a principal.
Nice. So talk to us and talk to me about kind of the beginning of you becoming you. I mean, where do you think everything was? Was it the upbringing? Is this how you always thought you were going to see yourself? Was this the dreams that you had as a child, or did things change?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I've always never been sure. I think growing up, for context, I was valedictorian of my high school graduating class. Went to Stanford University on a full academic scholarship, played sports at Stanford, graduated, and even up to my senior year in college, I didn't really know, because I felt like I had a lot of options and I didn't know how to decide. And then I eventually settled on education, because growing up, I think I noticed that I went to a predominantly white school district. My parents are immigrants from Mexico, and that kind of like dichotomy made me feel like I needed to be like my white peers in order to be successful. And there was actually a time in high school where I was like, didn't really want to speak Spanish in front of my friends, didn't want to like show my culture as much, because I thought, oh, my friends, they're all white, they're all going to college, that's what success is. So I think it really took a lot. And in college is when I realized, talking to a lot of friends, that that's kind of messed up, and that's kind of how the world operates. Mm-hmm. And so kind of realizing that is what kind of sparked the passion for me in education, to kind of be that teacher that I didn't have, that male teacher of color that can kind of be a mentor or be a resource for students of color that may have parents that are also immigrants or also come from a low income background. That's kind of what gave me the spark and motivation to become a teacher.
Yeah, and what I want to kind of put a point to is it's very natural to fall into, that identity crisis, especially at a young age. And, the natural feeling is that you want to attain a level of success, and it's all relative to what you see, and not necessarily in my situation as an immigrant, but being candid, growing up as a young black man, you're looking for someone to kind of emulate, right? You're looking for someone to say, hey, this is a great model of what I want to try and become. And naturally, you're going to pick someone, or you're going to pick a group or an organization of people who are doing well, or doing at least relative to what you think is success. So that identity crisis at a young age is very natural. I definitely did not really feel comfortable in being the full extent of who I am as a young black man for a while. I mean, it was always, these are guys that are winning and I need to act like them. Weird enough, man. Side note, this is a true story. When I was in middle school, I was a skateboarder. Used to wear skinny jeans.
Oh, damn.
I swear to you, this is such a weird thing to say. I don't even know if I said this out loud, but I'm going to say this. I had some friends, man, who had real long hair and were skateboarders, right? And they used to like do this hair flip thing. Bro, this is so true. In middle school, man, I had less
How'd
hair
your
than I
hair
had
flip?
now, bro.
How'd your hair
I
flip?
had a buzz cut, and I used to just do this hair flip because all my friends did this. And one day someone's like, "What are you doing, bro?" And I'm like, "My hair is in my way." You know what I mean? But it's natural to kind of get into that, and you're just kind of trying to emulate the guys around you in the group that you want to be like, because you haven't really fully grown and established kind of who you are. So talk to me a little bit about the family. You got brothers and sisters. When did your parents kind of come to the U.S.?
Yeah, I have a younger sister. She is 2.5 years younger than me. My parents moved to Mexico 2 months before I was born. They were kind of like up in the air, deciding if they wanted to have their first kid in Mexico or in the U.S. And then my middle name is Larry because there's a man named Larry who offered them jobs in the U.S., which we can get into in a little bit, because I feel like a lot of my story comes from this man giving my parents an opportunity to start a life in the U.S., which then now has built my life as, a young professional in Dallas. So it's a lot of, I think that's what kind of sparked everything. That's where everything began, is because this figure, this American businessman, saw in my parents like work ethic, hard work, responsibility, kind of just like relentless attention to detail, almost like when they're working, like, and this a quality about both of my parents have that I try to emulate is like everything you do it to the best that you can, and you don't leave any mistake that you catch, you got to fix it. You're not going to leave it there for somebody else to get. So I think that's the mentality that they instilled in me, even as immigrants, as people that didn't really understand how schools worked in the U.S. They're able to just have a kid and tell them, look, you're going to listen to your teachers, you're going to do your work, and all that work that you do is going to be the best that you can, because that's all you got. That's all we have, right?
Yeah. So talk to me about that. I mean, when you're kind of coming up and you're starting to try to figure out who you are and kind of how you're going to approach life, those models and those role models and those mentors that sometimes are bestowed on you and sometimes you stumble upon, those people in everyone's life, is going to make such a monumental impact, right? And these are people that, you're never going to forget. There's no way to really properly explain who you are without that happening. How did, one, at such a young age, right? They got the opportunity when you were, an infant. How did that help, groom you to being who you are? And how much, what age did you really know what was happening and know what he was doing for your life? Or was it all just secondhand from what your parents had told you?
Yeah, I think the Larry effect is what I guess I'm going to call it now. Yeah. The Larry effect, I didn't really know him very well. He kind of gave them jobs when I was young in Denver, Colorado, which is where I was born. They lived there for a year, moved to Arizona. His family helped kind of set my parents up to put me in preschool, like a private preschool. So his kind of effect was there, but then we moved to Texas when I was going to start first grade. Okay. So most of my formative memories, I didn't really know him. But I think that the other kind of big piece of the story is that my dad became a pastor when I was 9 in 2005. He became a pastor, and so him being a pastor and having this like pastor family of this Pentecostal church, he was always like, we are an example. Like everyone's looking at us. Everyone's looking like how we dress, what we do. And as a 9-year-old, like that's a lot of pressure.
It's a ton of pressure.
Yeah, it's like a pedestal. It's like constantly in your head. People are watching me. I can't mess up. I can't I have to be perfect, essentially. Yeah. So I think it took a lot of time to kind of me be comfortable making mistakes and be comfortable not being the best in the room, not being the most successful person in the room. Like, I think getting older, you start to realize that everyone has kind of a different story, a different path, and people define success in multiple different ways. And kind of learning that for myself was something that took me a while, because my dad had this like pedestal, this you have to be this example, and then being valedictorian didn't help either. Like that's adding on to it.
Well, that was the question that I wanted to ask, right? Is, I know quite a few guys. First off, it's a dope accolade to be valedictorian, and I know quite a few people, and I had some great conversations with people who had that. But I firmly believe, especially in high school, with the infinite amount of distractions. What's up, Muffin? The infinite amount of distractions, the infinite amount of things going on in parties and sports in the world, right? For me, I don't believe that you can be valedictorian merely off of just knowledge. It's a determination to do that. I don't think anyone stumbles into that. I think you set out to accomplish that, right? And with you, is that similar, or did it just happen?
I think I think it's like a middle answer, because my parents kind of told me you have to do your best all the time. And so I just did that. And as a result, when I got to high school, my sophomore year, they pulled out the like initial class rankings, and they gave me a little slip of paper. It said like 1. And I was like, oh. And that's the first time that it kind of like hit me like, oh, like I can be the top of my class. And that's when I started working for it. I was like, I need to not let this slip away because it's there, right?
Yeah.
So it's a combination of
both.
both.
So it was a little bit of both. It was a little bit of your upbringing and the standards that you had, but it was also seeing that it was possible, seeing that you could go get it. Yeah, that's awesome. So what happens after that? I mean, Stanford, talk to me about that. I mean, first off, again, right, the list of accolades is astonishing, because Stanford is a feat just to get in, let alone to graduate from. How much decision was it to where you were going to go? When did you really know that you were going to go to college? Was it always in the factor? And why did you end up settling on Stanford?
Yeah, I think for me it was, I mean, you get in, like you said, it's like, I think it's like a 4% acceptance rate. So once you get in, like there's so much excitement about it. I told my counselor, told my friends, everyone's like, dude, that's crazy. You got to go. And I had applied to a couple other schools as well.
But college was always the plan, right?
I think kind of growing up in that kind of white middle class, like everyone's talking about Texas A&M, Tech UT, like Oklahoma. So it's like this college going culture. And I think you just kind of get wrapped into it. Like, it's like, yeah, college just makes sense. Like that, there wasn't ever really like another option, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then once the Stanford acceptance letter hit, it's like, yeah, like, cool, I'm going to go. It was either that, and then I got into MIT and Harvard as well. And I chose Stanford because of their sports. I was like, they got the best football team out of the three.
Time out. We're not going to blow by that. So you're in high school, okay, and you apply for the most prestigious schools on the planet. And then you get letters. You're sitting at the kitchen table, and you have an acceptance letter to MIT, Harvard, and Stanford. Now, as an adult in the education system, you're able to have this conversation with me and recognize how insane that is, right?
Yeah, I acknowledge that.
The weirder part is, though, is you went to Stanford. So you know a lot of Stanford graduates, and you know a lot of people who went to Stanford, so it's normal to you.
Yeah.
But you're talking to someone who didn't go to college, right? And you're talking to someone whose entire friend group, we didn't go to college. I got a couple buddies who went to college, but the vast majority of my group are people like me. We're entrepreneurs who just got into the business world and started trying to make stuff shake, because college was either not an option because of access or not an option because of interest. And for me, it was just not an interest. I could have gotten into any college I wasn't going, right? So it is dope to be able to just acknowledge the success of that. Just having those letters on the counter is amazing, right?
Yeah.
So you how long does it take for you to make that decision? Is it instantaneous? Do you tell your parents? What are their thoughts? Does everybody Stanford go?
Yeah, so it's funny because my parents didn't understand what it meant at first. They were like, "Oh, you're going to go to college in California? Why are you going so far?" Yeah. Right? Because they're like, there's 10 colleges here right down the street in Texas. Like, why are you going so far? So I had to like kind of explain, and kind of through them talking with other parents is when the first kind of hit them like, oh, this is something big. Like, it's not
the
just
prestige of it.
Yeah, the prestige. So once they kind of understood, like, my mom never was going to be happy with me leaving home. Yeah. But she was supportive, and they were both very happy and very proud that I was able to get that accomplished.
So it was an easy decision for you. You were set on Stanford.
Yeah, I think so. And again, it comes back to the sports thing. I wanted that, like, go to a college football game experience. And out of the three,
is this the Andrew Luck era?
It was Andrew Luck, end of Andrew Luck, beginning of Christian McCaffrey.
Okay, it's a good time to be a Stanford.
Oh yeah,
it's a good time. It's a little sadder nowadays.
Top five on Christian McCaffrey's Heisman runner-up year.
Yeah.
So that was fun. I actually had a class with him called Sleep and Dreams. Kind of saw him. Didn't ever talk to him, but it was cool seeing him there, and now seeing him about to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, about to be Super Bowl MVP. Early prediction. Okay, that's dope. So, how does college go for you? What are the, outside of the obvious, right, which is the education that you got from it, the things that are obviously in the curriculum. I mean, what are some of the things that gave you that aren't on the brochures, and how did that go? How simple was it? How happy were you with it, and how did that develop into who you are today?
Yeah, I think I was always a multi-sport athlete in high school. I tried out for every sport, played as much as I could. I didn't really ever pick one. And then when I got to college, I was planning on joining the the club soccer team, because I wasn't like a walk-on, or a varsity athlete. But whenever I ended up getting there, my freshman roommate, he just says, "Hey, dude, there's this ultimate Frisbee team. that you should try out for. The Stanford team's really good. They play on a national level. They compete against other schools. They travel. And I was like, I'll go check it out. And so that little conversation became my biggest extracurricular in college. That was not school. I was on the ultimate Frisbee team. I became captain my sophomore year, and then captain sophomore, junior, and senior year. And we were able to go to the national championship my junior and my senior year by the end. So that was my biggest like kind of curveball. I was going to Stanford to just like go learn and see what I did. And then the biggest extracurricular I did, the biggest thing that wasn't academics, ended up being this team that I was really proud of. I was like, I'm
So you were captain, and you took these guys to the national championship 2 years in a row.
Yeah,
it's pretty dope.
Yeah,
that's a peak. Did we lose both of them?
We did lose both of them. Well, so the national championship in ultimate Frisbee, it's a tournament that 20 teams make.
Okay.
So then you go, and then there's a champion at the end. So we didn't become the champion at the end, but we had different finishes.
Yeah.
My senior year, I was actually voted the college most valuable player, which a lot of people compare to like the Heisman of ultimate Frisbee.
Yeah.
And so that was really because I tore my ACL my senior season in the last game before the national championship. So that was a bummer. Obviously, I couldn't play, but winning that award at the end of my senior year was something that I'm really proud of.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of guys that play in high school and they train to be these ultimate Frisbee athletes, and being able to kind of hop in my freshman year and improve at a rate
and
that I was
never
able to.
played prior to college.
No.
Yeah, no, you just kind of stumbled into it.
Yeah.
That's super dope. And then, getting out of college, obviously. So hold on. First off, what I want to ask is, through high school, right? Valedictorian high school. Are you partying? Are you not partying? Are you socializing? Are you just focused on the books?
I was very social. I was not a partier because my dad is very conservative pastor vibe. So like me going to like a high school party, like I was not supposed to want to go.
Yeah.
So I was very like kind of cookie cutter by the book, like didn't really party, but I was very social. I was in all the like student organizations. I was president of different clubs, and so very social, but not a lot of party scene.
What about college?
College, I kind of started to branch out. I wasn't under my parents' roof anymore.
Yeah.
So there's
gotta
more.
Be freeing, right?
Yeah, it's freeing. My freshman year, I still didn't choose to drink because it wasn't something I was comfortable with. But then my sophomore year is when I started opening up, started going to friends to parties, started, being a college student.
Yeah.
So it was fun. I think my kind of individual growth, finding my comfort in an identity that wasn't revolving around my parents' church. And
what I am curious about, because to me that is a deeper question. That's a question a lot deeper than just just our stories or just you and I. But that feeling, that notion of, hey man, I had these very predetermined and set rules put on me by my parents based off of our upbringing and based off kind of how they are and who they are. And, having those disciplines that are put on you at such a young age, there is a natural feeling to want to stick to it. And then that culture shock of absolutely getting away. I've seen a lot of people, and I don't want to say this in too aggressive of a derogatory statement, but I've seen a lot of people ruin their lives because
ounce of freedom.
Man, it's like that little bit turns into just a 180-degree flip. And I have some good friends who had some great disciplines. Their parents were amazing people, but they were strict. And those things were good for them. And the moment they got away, especially moving across the country, I mean, all of a sudden, they're not doing anything. All they're doing is trying to do the things that they couldn't have when they were younger. And all they're doing is partying. They're no longer going to school. So obviously, you had a circumstance similar to that, but you navigated it better. You navigated it in a way that obviously drove you to be successful. How much of it was conscious? How much of it was natural? And how did you navigate that period?
Yeah, that's a good question, especially because there's a big sense of imposter syndrome at a place like Stanford. I'm sure it's the case at a lot of different schools or jobs or whatever. So being there's a lot of like, I'm here. There's all these other people that also got in that are also successful, that also do all this stuff. So I think it was one of my first classes I took in college was called Self Theories by a professor named Carol Dweck. And that whole class was about what kind of self theory do you have? Like when you think of yourself, what do you think of? That whole class was answering that question. So I think that really helped. That class was really instrumental to me because I was able to kind of root myself, because applying to college, I'd already said all the I'm child of immigrants. I'm, trying to figure out my identity. Like, my dad's a pastor of a Pentecostal church, really conservative. I got all these friends that are not that. Like, how do I balance that? So I already had a lot of these questions going on, but making the transition to college and then trying to think, like, who am I? I'm no longer the valedictorian. I'm no longer the pastor's kid. I'm no longer this, like, pedestal person. Now I'm just small fish in a big pond.
Of course.
And so I think that really is what gave me a lot of peace of mind and comfort to just kind of, like, let my guard down and be real with people. Like my freshman roommate, my friends that I met, just being able to just let it down and just be authentic and genuine. And I think it's probably why my most meaningful relationships come from college, because I was able to, like, take a step back. I'm no longer, like, people aren't looking at me to wait for me to make a mistake. I can now, like, relax and just be myself, and people are still going to like you. People are still going to respect you. Yeah. You can still, take your journey in.
Yeah, it's freeing. I mean, it's very similar. I think our last episode, Chris and I talked about that jump to move across the country and start a new life, and that opportunity that you get to ultimately decide who you now want to be. And it's a little bit different from a reset, because this to me almost becomes like the beginning. It's not like I'm starting over. It's like, okay, now it's time for me to be who I want to be. And it's different than who was already who I was chosen to be. And that's the good and the bad of coming up in a household that is very strict, or is very disciplined, or is very predetermined, because they have a notion of what you're supposed to be that it doesn't pertain to you whatsoever. I mean, and I'm just having a real conversation. It's not a negative Nancy or a shot, but you could have been 10 different kids and they were going to have those same expectations set because you're the child of them. It's not that these are the expectations we set out for you. It's the expectations we set out for our child. And now the kind of the journey begins of, okay, who is Gabriel going to be? And that's why I say it is a lot of pressure, and it is difficult for people to navigate that, because it's a complete different responsibility of trying to fulfill a destiny predetermined for you, and
versus creating your own. And honestly, before you even got to create it, you got to determine it. And that, to me, is step one. I think a lot of guys and people, whatever the opportunity is, whether it's in college or in high school, or when you get kicked out the house, or when you get out the military, the identity crisis sometimes is you're trying to create what you haven't even figured out what you want yet, and that's that question I have, which maybe later in the story, or maybe it's now where we're at in chronological timeline, but when did you really figure out this is who I want to be? Because creating it is a journey. That may take 2, 5, 6, 10, 15, 20 years. But when did it come up to you that this is the guy that I want to be? If I'm being 100% honest, I still am figuring that out.
Yeah, no, that's dope.
I joined education because I had this passion to be a teacher that I didn't have. And even now, I think there's a transition from my whole life. I'm growing up to be competitive, to be the top, to be the best, top of my class, Stanford, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And to now transition into a profession that isn't seen that way by society is very hard, because I know, I've had cousins at family reunions or family gatherings be like, wait, you went to Stanford and now you're a teacher? How does that work?
Yeah.
Because society doesn't see it that way. And kind of, making the transition from I'm used to being the best, I'm used to being the top. And as an adult, some of that success, some of that hierarchy translates immediately to money, right? That's how a lot of people define success. And being able to be comfortable in when I graduated Stanford, I was deciding between career in tech or going to education. So one is obviously you're going to make more money. One is obviously and I made that decision my senior year graduating, got my master's in education to be this math teacher, to start being a educational leader, principal, try to climb that ladder. But in the back of my head, there's always this nagging question, you could be in tech, you could be somewhere else, you could be making twice as much money that you're making 3 times, 4 times. And that's still a question I'm asking myself sometimes. I'm do I want to keep riding it out? Do I want to switch to something that has bigger financial return versus this leading a school to different outcomes for low income minority children? Because now I'm an adult, I'm going to start my family hopefully in the next few years. It's all just a big question mark. And so,
well, let's backtrack before we, re-ask the question. Let's ask it the first time. Obviously you said you hadn't made that decision until senior year of college. Walk me through that. I mean, you get to senior year, you're obviously weighing those decisions. Why did you settle on doing what you're doing? How long did that take? And at that time, not now, but at that time, how confident were you in it?
Yeah, I think most of my senior year, so at Stanford, I studied this combined computer science and psychology degree. And so at the time of graduation, I'm thinking, I got some friends joining a startup that's all about education and technology, making apps for kids to learn, basically. Mm-hmm. And the other option is like, oh, go to grad school, become a teacher. At the like this program is a master's teacher certificate, et cetera. And so I'm just like sitting there, and I think the biggest, like part of my decision making was my family. I know how much they've supported me my entire life. I know how much they love me and care about me, and wanting to be close to them and being able to like see my sister become an adult, see my parents transition, like they're empty nesters, like how their relationship is different now. So that's part of it, wanting to be close to home. And then the second part of it is, I think, growing up as a pastor's kid and seeing my dad be so passionate about a community, about giving back. Mm-hmm. I think that just like was instilled, like it just kind of like filtered into my body somehow, because when I was thinking like, do I want to go like click away at a coding project to like figure out how to debug or create this next thing that we can sell to people, like I was like, do I want to do that, or do I want to go like try to redefine education? Do I want to be a teacher, rise the ranks, be someone that can say, I want to change how this country views education, I want to improve it, and I've been a teacher, so I know what it's like. And I think that was ultimately the latter is what had more weight. It was like, I believe in this, and it's hard to redefine a public government entity, but I think that's still like something that kind of like is that backseat, like slow, consistent, like it's just constantly, it's keeping me grounded. Yeah. I've had in the past 6 years, I could have changed careers 2, 3, 4 times, and that's just there kind of pushing me, saying like, you can do this, like it's something important. And I don't know, the short answer is I don't know.
Yeah, until you know, you don't know, and the reality of life is you don't know till you know, and that may happen at 50. I know I've got great friends who made significant 180-degree career changes in their 50s. It's a never-ending game, right? And one thing that is dope that you understood at that time and that you still recognize is sometimes to really make impactful and monumental changes in an infrastructure, you have to be able to point at your resume and say, I was in it. And I think most large-scale situations, organizations, structures, we're talking about public health, we're talking about military organizations, we're talking about large-scale corporations, they very rarely get changed from the inside, but when they get changed externally, you need to have inside experience. So even if, and I'm not just speaking to you, but I'm speaking to anyone, sometimes you just got to go pay your dues, so that way when you start to get into a position of adjustment, you could say, hey, I did that. The best leaders that we've had in government entities were in the military. They can say, hey, I know what it's like to make these changes to how the military operates because I served for 4 years, or I served for 6 years, or I did my term, or I did a tour. And it's very difficult and challenging for people to come in and start trying to rewrite how the military operates when that's not on your resume. And that goes for anything, right? I think saying, hey, I used to be in the NBA, I used to be an NBA player, gives you a level of accreditation and it gives you a level of rapport to NBA players when you become a head coach. Now, does that determine or create success? No, but it at least gives you a head start of credibility, right? So it is awesome that you recognize that of, if I want to make changes to how public health is, at least I could say, hey, I did it. And who knows, where the cards may fall in the future, but you always have that. Yeah. And one of the things I think a lot of young people make mistakes on is this pressure of the clock, right? It's like, man, I'm 30. I've got a friend who told me the other day, he's like, man, I'm 36. I haven't figured out my life, man, and he's stressing. And I'm like, look, man, you're probably feeling, and this was a personal conversation, like you're probably feeling as bad as you do because you're talking to someone who hasn't reached 36, and I know where I'm supposed to be. But, man, you got to understand, 36 is not that old, bro. It seems old because you're comparing yourself to your friends, but, man, 36 is not that old. You know what I mean? Because you could get fired and decide, look, I'm never going to get into my career again. I'm going to start from scratch, from brand new bottom of the totem pole. Man, at 36, you still got 30 more years, bro. You can go from the bottom of anything to the top in 30 whole years. So there has got to be a lot of grace when it comes down to some of those decisions, because you got plenty of freaking time, man, plenty of time. So getting into education, how do you end up in the school that you're at? How do you end up, back in Dallas? How do you end up, where you're at? How long was that decision, and kind of how'd that go?
Yeah, I started off as a middle school teacher. I think the program I did my master's and teaching credentials through.
So it's like a fast track program.
It's like most people know TFA, Teach for America. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that, where you join the program in the first 2 years, you get your master's, but at the same time you are teaching.
How did you find out about this?
Career fair, senior year of college.
Okay.
Called Urban Teachers, and now it's called City Teaching Alliance or something. But they paired me to this.
So you walked into the career fair at Stanford.
Yeah.
And it's just a big auditorium full of different places.
Yeah, it's outdoors, California style, I guess, like palm trees and tables set up, and you're just walking around, and people were looking for Stanford graduates, and walking around, there was a table there. And he was like, "Yeah, you want to teach in Dallas?" And I was like, "That's where my family's from. Let me see."
That's some small world
stuff.
Let me see
what's up. Yeah. That guy that recruited me ended up working in Dallas also. So like he was I met him at the table, then like fast forward a year, and I'm like, "Yo, you were the guy that told me about this program." So, and then they placed me in a 6th grade school in Dallas ISD. That's it's called a high priority campus, which means that that Dallas ISD is trying to improve the school, improve the test scores. It's one of the like lower on the spectrum. And so I started at that school. It's all low income. It's like 65% Hispanic, 35% black. Not a single white kid anywhere. And I think
where is this, in Oak Cliff?
It's by Love Field.
Okay.
Yeah, it's by Love Field. A lot of it's by Love Field. And the high school that I ended up transitioning to is the high school that those kids go to after that middle school. And I really enjoy teaching.
First off, did you always know you wanted to graduate up to high school? Was that always the plan? Or
I think
was
so.
That a part of the program?
No, it's not part of the program. I always knew that I wanted to work with older kids, because when I was a sophomore, junior in high school is when I had these identity questions of who am I? Who do I want to be? And I feel like having a older male of color would have been really nice.
Yeah, of course.
And so I always wanted to move up to high school, and I think I'm starting to see the fruits of like there's kids that are 15, 16, 17, 18, and they're interested in your opinion. They want to know, what did you do? Like they want to hear your advice.
And now you feel like you're making an impact.
Yeah, and it's like an impact. It's not the impact that you think of like when you think of like corporate level, like large scale, far-reaching change, but it's like a kid like can have some life advice.
You can change the course of his life with the conversation.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so I think that the biggest desire to work in a low-income community was the same reason why I think like education and honestly like American society as a whole, like it's very inequitable. Like you're born poor, like it's very hard for you to make your way out. And like that's not saying it's not impossible. There's people that create everything from nothing, and I want to be able to like, how can we maximize that? How can we create more avenues for people that come from low income communities, which is part of what the cards they were dealt, right? How do we inspire more of these kids, more of these students to like become these successful, creative, inspiring, members of the next generation?
Yeah. And what kind of registers with me as you say that is, man, we have very similar quests, right? And obviously that's why we relate, and we'll get to us later in the story. But when I look at you and then I look at me, it's almost so obvious that we are trying to make an impact in the ways that we know. Because for me to say I want to impact lives and I want to be able to help people, it never would have crossed my mind that it would have been done through the education system, because I didn't feel the education system helped me.
Yeah.
So I'm almost looking in life for the people like me who needed it a different way, and it almost comes off very similar to kind of how you're looking at it, because the education system, although you had those questions and you had that identity crisis, was a very critical part of you becoming you. In opposition to me, because not to say education's not great, but I don't think it did much for me in my life.
And there's a lot of kids like that.
And they are. And I feel, my quest has been to reach those cats, right? And also I believe that's a smaller, percentage of them. A lot of guys don't do school, but I'm talking about the guys, I didn't do school because I didn't think school was conducive for how I learned. It almost came off annoying to me because, I don't have to be taught something 3, 4, 5, 6 times. If you tell me once, I'm good. And then everything that we talk about after that kind of pisses me off. Showing up to class when I feel like I got it already kind of bothers me. And
I got students just like that,
man. And I'm not compliant enough to do it. So I'm just not going to show up. I'm not going to show up, And high school for me was easy because I could flirt with the teachers a little bit and throw a couple winks. And then, at the end of the year, I'd, be like, hey, pass me. And they'd be like, all right. So a little bit different, but the education system was just not, it was not an avenue for, I'm not saying it didn't help me, right? I'm very intelligent, but it wasn't like, oh, this is where I testament my success to, or at least the pivotal points of change, and then this is what I want to improve. It was like, man, I don't think that's a good thing for me, and I want to be able to do it elsewhere, and I want to help people elsewhere.
And I think what you say is super important, because the traditional way everyone views education is like high school, college, success. And like I tell my students all the time, that is not the only way to get there. You can be successful, especially now in today's like technology-driven world. Like social media is crazy. You can be successful without a college degree. It looks differently than if you were to have one, but like there's so many ways to be successful, to build yourself, to find something that drives you, that it's almost like on you for not finding it,
Yeah, but I will admit, and I will say this publicly, I have these last 2 years maybe. And it's inevitable. I know it's going to happen. These last 2 years, I've really felt that pressure to go get that piece of paper.
Yeah.
Because especially being black, being honest, being a minority, and I have a great resume. My resume speaks for itself. My success speaks for itself. But there's been too many times in life where I've had to fill something out, or some application, or to be on this board. And
you check that box.
You have to check that box. Highest level of education. And I'm at the point where I have to check high school, and I almost have to ask them, well, can I explain something to you?
Yeah.
Can I tell you real quick? And that is unfair, and it is unfortunate, but it is life, and it is real. And there's these last 2 years, I've really been contemplating, how I could pay somebody to do that work for me. But man, it is critical, and you're right. You definitely can create success without it, but you have to really register the challenges that are going to come with that, because there's a big difference between an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur. And it's a lot harder as an intrapreneur when you're having to get into those rooms of people who are looking for those things, Now, you are right. We live in a very different time in life. I don't think there's ever been a time in the history of humanity where you can make money doing anything than it is right now. I mean, there are people making 6 figures selling pictures of their feet. Yep. You don't need a high school education to sell pictures of your feet. There's never been a time like this, but it does take strategy, and it takes real work, and it takes real disciplines, because regardless of what you do and what you're able to monetize, it's still a business. It's still organization. It still requires the fundamentals that you need to make that thing win, right? So now you're in the education system. Obviously, you found yourself in it. You found yourself kind of climbing the ranks. You obviously see a vision for yourself. Yeah. Naturally, just like anyone else, there's questions. There's always going to be questions. If somebody confidently asks me, are the endeavors and the businesses that you're in now going to be the ones you're in 20 years from now? I don't know. You never know, right? Life happens, and it happens quick. But, with that, what are some of the things that, really matter most to you in life? I mean, outside of just what you're doing for your career path.
Yeah, I think for a long time, I didn't know. I was always like, I got my job, and I was always doing like side sports, most recently it was like competitive disc golf. Mm-hmm. Last summer I traveled across the country to play with like the PDGA Pro Tour. So I traveled, I drove for like a month over the summer, just competing, trying to like prove myself. So for a long time, it was like a lot of, in college, it was the team. It was I worked out every day. We did 2-a-days. We did all this stuff and then after college, it's work. And then it's this disc golf thing. It's like these like education policy advocacy groups. It's like trying to talk to state representatives and stuff like that. But most recently, I think the thing that fills my bucket the most is my relationship. I found a really amazing girlfriend, and we just celebrated our 6 months together, and I'm over the moon. Like that's my biggest bucket is like there's work, there's all this professional life, but now my vision is very differently, that I found someone that I want to build a life with.
Yeah, for those of you guys wondering if he has epilepsy, he's looking that direction because she's behind the scenes, behind the cameras, because he was like, so just to give some explanation to that.
She's helping us out right now.
Yeah, so she's definitely doing it. She's working. We got her to work. Okay, so, the work-life balance question, that question comes up a lot with a lot of different people. I like to ask people in all different careers and avenues, what does that mean to you? How do you determine that? How do you operate, how you do things, how you schedule things, how you put time on your week? Do you, how does that work-life balance look for you, and how do you manage that?
Yeah, I think for me, when I first went into education, I knew the like stereotype, right? That teachers are grading papers till 9 p.m. at home, like trying to grade and do all this stuff. And so I set that boundary for myself really early.
Well, before you answer that, is that true? Is that real?
It can be.
Because they act like that. I mean, remember.
It can be, and it doesn't have to be. Like, I feel like with any job, like you start off and you're learning everything, like meeting your deadlines, meeting all this stuff is like, it's new and it takes more time. But after you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years in anything, right? You learn how to, I need to get this done in this amount of time. I can do that. Right now, I need to prioritize this over that. I can do that. Take care of it. Bell rings, kids go home, I go home. So like, it's very important to me because at first it was a sports thing. It was like a extra life thing. Now it's like a relationship that I'm trying to like build on. And I think that it's been very important to me. Like, and I know that in any field, like being able to say no is like a really important skill. And so I think as you start in a career or an industry, it's a little harder. It's like you have to kind of give a little more time to meet all your goals, to be that responsible, fullest of your abilities employee or whatever. And as time goes on, you can start to learn the balance of like, these are the things that absolutely need to get done from the 9 to 5 or whatever. These are things that can wait until tomorrow. These are things that can wait until Monday. Like no one's gonna freak out over this. Like they might, but it's gonna get done. And it's so like you learn those things on the job. And it's hard to know what those things are when you first start.
Yeah. So what I want to kind of get into is some of the different things that are within you, right? Those skill sets, those natural ticks, those things that make you who you are that people can learn from, right? Because I've always said when you study greats in their past and what they do, there's so many common denominators that you can apply towards your life, right? And, it's very rare, and being candid, it's very rare that I get the opportunity not only to work with, but to have conversations with someone with your intellect, with your resume of success in terms of education field. I mean, that's, it's very prestigious, right? So there's a lot we can learn from it, and there's a lot that everyone watching can learn from it because you're highly educated, you're highly intelligent. What are things that you do, right? Because the mind is a muscle. It's something you have to work out. If you don't, you lose it, right? Just like anything else. What are some of those things that you do that got you to be where you are, that allowed your mind to operate at the speed it is? Or are there things that you still do? Or are there things that are part of your daily or weekly routine?
Yeah. I think for me, one of the biggest skills anyone can have is attention to detail. And like, to me, that's true because in my experience in education, there's like so many small things that like can get lost, like grading or like mostly grading. Honestly, I'm behind on grading, but there's so many things that can get lost, like different grade, like just deadlines, I guess you can call them. And being able to like, whenever you're working on something, being able to focus on all the details of the thing that you're working on and making sure they all get done in that time. That to me is such an important skill because some of the biggest like ways that you lose time is when you're working on something. Oh, I did it, boom, boom. Then you move on to something else. Then later on you realize, oh, I forgot to like fix this or like add this or do this or make sure that this person got this or whatever it is.
It was unfinished.
Yeah, it was unfinished. So being able to like devote time to something and be like, boom, and then in your head, check, this is good. Kind of like peer reviewing it yourself and like making sure it's the best that you can make it. All right, boom, I'm done with that. move on to the next thing. I think that is one of the most important things that I try to emulate, that I try to embody all the time. It's easy to do it once. It's hard to do it all the time.
Of course.
And with students, like, it's so hard because the teaching profession is like, I say this to my girlfriend all the time, like, you can go to work, you can put some headphones in, type of way, don't got to talk to you. My job, I go to work, I have to talk to people, I have to walk around, I have to like give feedback to these students that want my attention, they want my feedback. So it's a very different demand on your energy, but being able to like go and like making every interaction, like a kid asks you a question, not brushing them off, not being like, oh, like whatever, I'll get back to you, being able to like see where they're coming from, address their question, whatever, like give them the little information or knowledge that you need, and doing that every single time is like kind of repetitive attention to detail, right? It's not just, all right, whatever, moving on. It's like every interaction is focused, it's detailed. It's like whatever that kid needs at that time, you're giving them that. And it looks at a million different ways, and that's how it looks in education. So to summarize, I think that's the biggest thing I try to focus on is attention to detail in everything I do. And that internal motor in me is what kind of like helps me do that with a bunch of different things.
Yeah. What fills your cup? I mean, obviously there's an entire story about modern day and how we're going to get into that, but I still want to kind of pick your brain. What fills your cup, right? Because what you are saying is your profession, although it is fulfilling, because I think anytime you work with youth and you're able to make a positive, impact on youth, it is fulfilling, but it is still energy draining because that is what they're asking of you. They're not asking, the profession that you're in, they're not asking for your computer skills, right? They're not asking for your ability to do manual labor. Your entire career is giving energy. And before I ask that question, other than your girlfriend, because we know that's the first
what I was
going
to say, bro.
We knew that already. What fills your cup? What recharges your battery? What are those vices that you have that really you're able to ground to and say, you know what, this gives me another burst of energy?
Yeah. I think the first one that came to mind was what you said, my girlfriend. The second one, I think, is like my parents, my family. And third is I play a lot of chess. I might sound like a total nerd, but I play chess.
The Stanford grad.
Yeah, I play chess all the time on my phone. And like, to me, it's like a way for me I sit and I think about these pieces and these patterns and this strategy. And it's just like it's weird because most people don't do that to relax. Mm-hmm. To me, it's like a way to kind of like, I just talk to a bunch of 14-year-olds at school. I can come sit and think about a little puzzle, or honestly, any kind of puzzle, like where I have to figure something out, I think has always been part of me. And that's something that I kind of refreshed myself with. Like, I was able to solve a puzzle. It's like, oh yeah, like.
Is it the action of doing it, or is it the accomplishment of completing it?
I think it is the action of doing it is what gives me that kind of like rest, that like recharge.
The calm. Yeah,
the calm of like, oh, I'm like doing this puzzle and whatever. But then the like completion is what gives me like satisfaction. Yeah, like it gives me like, because when I lose on the like I'm pissed. Like I'm like, bro, like I'm so fucking like I'm pissed. So like obviously like the calm of solving the puzzle is good, and then being able to like solve the puzzle correctly, win the game of chess, like whatever, like that's what gives me like, oh yeah, like now I'm satisfied. Now I'm like,
yeah, which is you're polar opposite from me. Because if I need to recharge my battery, if I need to unwind,
you're not playing chess.
Dude, I need mindlessness, bro. I need to turn my shit off because all day I was using it. I want to do the dumbest thing possible. It's the complete opposite of me.
I do have a Switch. I haven't played much lately, but I like playing like video games and stuff. It's kind of like a way to just unwind. So.
Yeah. But a lot of the things that you're saying, it seems like you're very relationship driven, right? Yeah. Not just necessarily relationship with your significant other, but it's relation in itself that makes you feel recharged, right? Just the ability to hang out with people and have that connection is something that brings a lot to you, huh? Has it always been like that?
Social energy? Mm-hmm. I think so. I've always been a very social person. I think as you get older, everyone kind of becomes more introverted because in high school, you're just always around people, and then college, you're like always around people. And then as you become an adult, your time around people diminishes. So, but yeah, I think getting value from social interactions, not just social interactions, but social interactions where you're talking about stuff like this, right? Life stuff, where you're talking about really meaningful things that people care about, that people are passionate about. Like, those are things that I really love to go and talk about and just like word vomit, just like spill my brain, like not even worry about what it sounds like, just saying like what my brain thinks of as someone talks about something they care about.
Yeah, just to bounce things.
Yeah.
So now as we get into kind of the more modern story, I mean, talk to us about, you know, your side passion, you know, in photography and how that kind of blossomed and where that came from and where that idea, you know, really began. Was that something that you'd seen people do? You just decided it was something you were into? I mean, where'd that come from?
Yeah, of course. That's actually how we met each other, honestly. So I've always liked photography. When I was in high school, I'd go take my little Samsung phone and like take pictures of flowers or nature or like sunsets. So it's always been something that I've enjoyed. It was actually on that road trip where I was playing disc golf. I was driving around the country playing disc golf, road tripping, and on my way back home, I don't know, like the way my brain works is just like things just appear sometimes. And so I'm driving home and all of a sudden I'm just like, what if I bought a camera? And I'm just driving, right? I'm just alone with my thoughts. No one else in the car. I'm like, I could buy a camera, like take some pictures, like do some videos, like learn about it. It's always something I've liked to do. What if that's like something I do on the side? And that was it, literally. Like, stopped at a gas station. The next time I had to fill up gas, I sat in my car, filled the gas, got some snacks, sat on my phone, looked up a camera, did some research, looked up reviews, and I was like, all right, boom, 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 boom. $5,000 transaction just out. I was like, boom.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I tell people that, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you just like, that's a nice camera, that's a nice lens, that's a nice this. And I'm like, bro, literally just one day I was driving home and I was like, I want to do this.
But it felt right.
It felt right. I got the camera. The first time I used it was in our Rams' workout class. So we go to the same gym, and like I was like, hey man, I got a new camera. Like, I want to start doing videos. Is it okay if I like bring my camera and do some videos? And he was like, yeah man, come on over, like do your thing. So that's how it kind of started. He gave me like a little platform to like, here's some videos. And the first video I made for this trainer, Kevin saw, and that's when he like comes up to me and hits me up. He's like, hey, like I want to talk to you about like possible partner opportunity. So I'm like, I've always had this passion for photography. I know like the basic stuff with phones and like lighting and exposure. And I bought a camera to try to grow that knowledge and also to like start doing some stuff on the side. And it very quickly like just took off. Like I made something that people liked and people like wanted more of. So
yeah, which is such a crazy story because, you know, I think I gave some homage before, but to kind of give that explanation so everyone's on the same page. You know, obviously prior to Elevate1 Media was, you know, we were doing a media division of what was ultimately my parent company, which is Kevin Ebbs Enterprises. And at the time, my partner in terms of media division was Edwin, who I gave homage to. I still give homage to. I talked to him probably an hour before this shooting. Who's doing awesome things, and he's doing big things that I absolutely support. And I've always said in the business world, everybody has different responses to kind of people taking on new opportunities, but I've always tried to pride myself in being that guy who's never going to block your advancement. I mean, there's a difference, you know, between, you know, being a hater and then being someone who obviously has, you know, responsibility to an organization. But with every opportunity I get, I've got guys in all my businesses who've moved on to bigger and better things. I've got guys who worked for some of my companies who now own companies. Some are doing well, some are not. But at the end of the day, man, you gotta go figure it out if you can do it. You know, I've had some guys in my sales organizations. I had a great guy, a great friend of mine, who comes to me, says, hey, can we talk? Comes to my house. We had, you know, a couple drinks, and he said, Kev, man, I don't know if I can do what you do, and I don't know if I can run a company, but he says, I need to try it. I need to know if I can for myself or not. And I said, look, man.
Just pushing yourself.
You got my ultimate blessing. I said, if it doesn't work, you got a home here, but if it does, hey, let's grab a drink. And I love to see people advance because I'm not blocking anybody's blessings, man. So Edwin obviously moved on to bigger and better things, and I'm very happy for him. But also at that time, we hadn't legitimized things. We hadn't created a platform. We hadn't created a successful company. We were piggybacking off of a different business that I had. So it was a very oddly and peculiarly and perfectly timed situation where Edwin's advancement to what he now does with T. Jones, who's going to be on next week, and their super successful career of him following him as an artist, and those guys traveling the country on a world tour to shoot music videos and to kind of promote what they're doing, had just happened, and it was clear to me that it was like, Kev, you have to make a decision of, do you want to stay in this media game or do you want to get out? And if you want to stay, you've got to find that guy. And I knew that, and very different than you. When I need an unwind, when I feel the pressure of work and I need to get away, I do the opposite. I turn my brain off, bro. I mean, I will do whatever I can to just shut it off. And I think it's those moments where I stop being an entrepreneur, right? That what's next, because if I don't turn it off intentionally, bro, it's every night. It's like, I got to do this tomorrow, and I got to send this email, and I've got to. And there are nights where it's 2 a.m, and and you've probably gotten some flyers that I've sent at 3, like, hey, what do you think about this at 3 a.m., right? And Travis and I had these conversations where I'm sending him emails at 4 a.m. because I can't turn it off unless I choose to. But it's those moments where I just stop, where things really that are supposed to come to me. And I remember having a night where it was late, and I was thinking, and I was like, I want to do this. This is something that I want to do. I don't want to give up on this. This is a passion I have. This is an avenue that I know we can create big success on, and I know that guy is going to come. And I remember seeing that video, and I remember seeing you, and it wasn't even like an opportunistic moment. It was almost like there was an arrow over your head that was like, this is the guy, Kev. You know what I mean? It was like, this is him. And I remember, and if anybody knows me personally, I'm kind of an asshole. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not the nicest guy in the world unless if you're in the camp, it's different. But if you're not in the camp, I'm not talking to strangers. I'm not acknowledging that you exist. I don't have time for you. And I'm not trying to be an ass, but I am an ass. So it's very rare that I run up on people I don't know, like, hey, what's up, man? Like, that's just not me. Yeah. But I remember feeling in that moment, I was like, this is the guy. Like, this is the guy. And obviously we got into those conversations that became what it now is.
I remember that. It was by the basketball court. I remember you walking
right by the water
like,
fountain.
And you were like, hey, man, what's up? I'd be like, hey, what's up?
Yeah. And it happened quick. And I didn't know until this moment that was your first video ever.
That was my first video ever with that camera.
Yeah, yeah. Which is small world stuff that we're here now, right?
Yeah.
So now to kind of catch up, obviously we've got some trigger questions to kind of pick who you are, but now to catch up, and I think this is an awesome time to kind of break down the announcement of it. I mean, obviously we're going to have an episode that came out before this one, but we've now created Elevate1 Media, right? And we now have this together as the two partners and owners of the business. So for all of you guys who are watching, obviously this podcast is one production that we do. We also create and shoot podcasts. If you guys are looking to roll one out, we also create and shoot documentaries and small-time videos, small-time photography, anything from a wedding, to your birthday party, to your sister's graduation or your daughter's recital. You guys have full access to reach out to both of us. This is the first time that him and I, are on camera together. Both of us will be hosting this show with different guests, so it's just awesome that we get this opportunity to get into your story and how you became who you are and where you are. And now, as always, on that last end of our shows, I want to start really asking you some random rapid fire questions.
Send them my way.
All right. So first question, if you could live anywhere in the world, money's not an option, where would it be?
Colombia.
Why?
I've been once, and the one time I went, it was for an ultimate frisbee tournament, and it was just, I think it's like, because my parents are from Mexico, so like, Mexico is familiar. United States is kind of familiar. Colombia is that middle ground of like, I'm in another place that speaks Spanish, and it's different, but it's similar enough, and like, it's gorgeous. I went to Barranquilla for a frisbee tournament, and just like being there, I think it literally is like being somewhere you don't know but kind of know. Mm-hmm. I think that's what it is. And like being able to like live there for a period of time and get to know this other culture that's different but like somehow strangely familiar. I think I really like that dichotomy. I really like that balance.
Yeah, we're going next month, and I'm super excited.
I'm very excited for that.
I'm super excited, but I'm also, the wedding is on the 6th. My birthday's on the 11th. We're there that whole week, so I'm doubling up on the celebrations.
Okay, there you go.
I'm definitely going a little wild out there. So I'm super excited for that. what characteristic about you do you think is the best that you have and possess?
Can I say two?
Yeah.
I think my first one is being able to relate to people. This was something my senior year of high school choir teacher told me. I joined choir on a whim my senior year. She told me, you know what I like about you? I was like, what? You're a valedictorian. You're going to Stanford. You're doing all that stuff. But every day I watch you come into this class and talk to everyone, and you relate to everyone, and you're just friends with everyone. Like, you just relate to everyone. So I think that is my top one, because I think that's the most important, like, human skill we relate. So, like, being able to, like, hear someone and, like, interpret what they're saying and kind of meet them where they are, where they're coming from. I think that's something that I would say I'm proud that I have. I forgot what the other thing I was going to say was. But I think it's, yeah, I forgot the other one. So I guess it's just one.
Yeah. And then, which is an awesome thing, right? The ability to relate to people gives you so much power. It gives you so much power
leadership.
to help them.
Second one was leadership. I feel like, in multiple opportunities in my life, most notably the Frisbee team, being able to be a captain my sophomore year, being asked to be a captain my sophomore year when I had never played the sport, I think is being able to lead a group of people, but not just lead because, like, oh, I want to be a leader. It's like leading because when I believe in something, I'm able to, like, just, like, fully I'm able to motivate people to support that goal. In college, it's Frisbee. Right now, it's education. So, like, being able to talk about something and not just talk about it, but show that I'm passionate about it, show that I believe in it, and then subsequently, like, pull people in to, like, support that goal. I think that's another thing that I've learned that I'm good at.
If there was an individual in front of you, let's say you had a young guy who saw himself in a very similar light to you, right? And that's happened to me. I've been blessed with that privilege a couple times where I've had some guys I saw a lot of me in, and they said, hey, can we grab a lunch? Yeah. And that happened. And they said, listen, man, I've only got this 10 minutes to talk to you, and then I'll never see you again. What advice would you give them? What would be the premise of the conversation in which you had? You got 10 minutes to impact someone's entire life. I
think I give them the story that I gave in my speech at graduation. And we're all a bunch of pencils. We're all synonymous to pencils. Someone makes a pencil, they put it in the box. I told this story at graduation. When the pencil maker is putting the box in the pencil, he says, I don't know where this pencil is going to end up. I don't know where you're going to go. I don't know who you're going to meet. I don't know where you're going to go. I know nothing about you. All I know is that the most important quality you have is that lead that's inside of you. And your purpose is to use that lead to mark on things, to, like, leave an impression, to whatever. That's your purpose. And so I would say, like, we are so much like pencils. Like, we don't know where we're going to go. We just talked about how we don't know where our like 10 years from now, what we're going to do, right? But at the end of the day, like, we have what we grew up with. We have what makes us us. We have that thing that we carry inside. And if you are using your personal belief, your personal convictions, like whatever you value, you're using that to leave a mark on people you meet, on people you work with, on things that you build. Like, if you're using the thing that's inside of you to leave your impression on other things, like, you're sure that you didn't fuck up, you didn't mess up, like, because you used the thing that makes you you, and you used it to leave a mark on the world. Yeah. So I think that's what I would say.
Which is dope. You gave that speech at your graduation. College?
Yeah, graduation, high school.
Nice. What is your greatest fear in life? Earthly fear.
Probably the ocean. I'm terrified of the ocean.
Why?
I think it's not knowing what's underneath you.
Yeah.
I think that's like, and I also almost drowned twice as a child. So I have very vivid memories of me, like, kind of gasping for air.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So you don't mess with the ocean.
No. So, like, this wedding we're going to, they have, like, a sunset cruise. Like, it's taken me a lot of effort to, like, work myself up.
There's a sunset cruise?
Yeah. On Wednesday.
I didn't read anything.
Yeah.
I didn't read anything.
So I think the other fear, that's like whatever, like tangible, physical, whatever fear. I think the other one might be like finishing my life, getting to my deathbed, 80, whatever, how old I ever end up getting to be, and looking back and being like, dang, I really didn't use my time well. Like, I didn't do the most I could. I didn't use it well. I think that's like a fear of being able to reach the end of the line and be like, what did I do?
I wasted it.
Yeah.
That's honestly, in a different saying, in a different wordage, that's my greatest fear in life. Yeah. Is that you get to the end and you absolutely have to recognize the potential and the gifts that you were given in opposition to everyone else, and then having to face the reality that you didn't match up to what you were gifted with, right? Yeah. And that was because that was my same answer. It was leading to what my question was, and these are going to be two tough questions, right? And you may or may not know the answer to the second one, because I would say 75% of human beings do not know the answer to my second question, but I'm going to ask you the first one first. What do you think your greatest gift is? What do you, as me as a godly man, what and you as well, what do you think God's gift to you was in terms of what you were blessed with? Because obviously we discussed that you believe your best attribute is relation, and I think my best attribute and my gift from God are two different things. I think there are two different answers, but what God gave me is in alignment with my purpose. So what do you think you were gifted with? What is the thing? Steve Harvey has a great description of it. Is the thing that you do best with the least amount of effort.
I think for me it's going to be my ability to learn things quickly. I think my whole life I've been, I was valedictorian, smart in school, had the highest grades, but then I went and joined the tennis team. I tried out for the tennis team, never had picked up a tennis racket in my life. The day I tried out was the day I grabbed the tennis racket for the first time. And I made the team. Just boom, figured it out, learned. You made the team? I made the team my junior year. Never having picked up a tennis racket. You showed up to tryouts
and never played ever.
Never. It was cross-country practice had finished. I was ready to go home my junior year, and then my friend told me, hey, they're hosting tennis tryouts. And I was like, dude, fuck it. Let's go see what's up. I go, and I make the team, varsity. And so that year I learned, and so I picked it up quickly. College, I joined this Frisbee team, right? And I become the captain my second year, become what was voted the best player in the country by my senior year. Teaching within my first year became one of the best teachers on my campus in terms of scores. Mm-hmm. You give me any photography, videos, you give me a camera, I just learn how to use it and how to implement it. You give me,
a gift.
Yeah, and I think that's the greatest gift, because it's also kind of a curse, because I have this ability to learn things quickly and ability to be good at multiple things.
It's always what next.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah, because everything's an option.
And I think that's God's greatest gift to me is you can look at something and you can learn it very, very quickly. I think there was another story. We went to a Friendsgiving with me and my girlfriend, and they had a card game that I'd never seen. I still don't even know what it's called, but they taught me the rules. They were teaching multiple people in the room the rules, and I just learned it after the first go, got it, boom. The next 4 games, I won all 4 of them with people that had been playing for a long time. And so it's just an analogy to kind of highlight the same thing. It's I feel like God's greatest gift was I'm able to learn things quickly, pick up on patterns quickly, and just implement them.
Which is dope that you recognize that as a gift, because there are people who...
It wasn't until lately. I didn't know that about myself till about 6 months ago.
Man, I'll give a story. I used to be, and I'm still working on it, but I used to be the cockiest dude on the planet. I used to be as cocky as they come, man. And I was having a conversation with a very, very, very important person in my life at the time, who's an ex-girlfriend, and her name is Callie, and she was a blessing in my life. And although things did not work, I was not ready for the level of relationship that God was trying to give me, and I have to recognize that now. But man, one of the greatest lessons I ever learned was a conversation that her and I had, and somehow it came up where she said, God was, she basically tried to tell me that God was blessing me with all these gifts. And I was like, Callie, you're not understanding. I worked for this. Mm-hmm. I read those books. I went to those seminars. I took those courses. I learned all of that. And she said, Kevin, let me ask you a question. And she slowed things down, right? Because I was, I'm heated. I'm frustrated. You're telling me that I didn't put the work in. I put all this work in, right? I worked for this. I worked to get here. And she said, Kevin, let me ask you a question. She said, if 100 people on this planet read every book that you read, went to every seminar that you went to, learned from every mentor that you had all those luncheons with the successful people, did every level of effort that you did, would all of them be who and where you are today? And I thought about it, and I said no. And she said, why not? And as cocky as I was and still am, I said, because they're not me. They can't do what I do. I feel I'm different. I feel I'm absolutely different. And she looked at me, and she took a second of dramatic effect. And I kind of looked at her, and she said, then why do you not think that that's a blessing? Why do you not think that if all of them could do what you did but could not get the same outcome, why do you not register that God blessed you with that? And that was the first moment where, like, the gears started to grind, and I kind of for the first time in my life was stumped. I didn't even know what to say. I just kind of stared at her forehead. And she said, Kevin, why did you read those books? And I said, because I wanted to be successful. And she said, who gave you the desire to read those books? And it was another moment where I'm just like staring at her forehead. She said, Kevin, you read those books because he wanted you to. He gave you the feeling for it. And she said, more importantly, there are plenty of people on this earth who could read that book 10 times and still not understand the message in it. She said, how many times did you read them? I said, I read them once. And she said, you got to recognize the gift that you can read it once and you can know it. You have to recognize the gift that you even wanted to read that book. And that was that first moment where, similar to what you're saying, which was my ability, and I think I talked about that when I said I didn't want to go to college, is my ability to just retain information. Yeah. Man,
that's all school is, bro. Retaining information.
It's retaining information. And to me, bro, it was such a life-changing conversation of having no choice but to recognize how much of a blessing what you just described is, how much of a gift from God that is. Because if I would have been on the other side of that, I would have given the answer, but I would have said, that's not God, that's me. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's dope that you gave that answer. And now that brings me into that second question, which I do believe still to this day, I'm going to guess about 75%, but it's probably around 90. What do you believe don't know the answer. What do you believe your purpose is? And I also want to reiterate that I'm not asking for your calling. I do believe that you know your calling. I think your calling is very clear to you because of what you went through as a child, that you are called to speak to and help and influence those in position and need, similar to where you were as a young man, needing to see someone relative to you, seeing someone like you and being able to change those lives. That is your calling. So I think you know some of the callings that you have, but what do you think your purpose on life is? And if you don't know, you don't know. A lot of people don't.
I think my purpose, based on everything we've talked about, I think I would say that it's to take something unchangeable and change it, like the public education system, in this case, career-wise. I think it's like being able to consistently choose a career that people don't choose. You don't go to Stanford to be a teacher. It's not like socioeconomically advantageous, right? I think it's all this I alluded to earlier, this like kind of slow pushing, motivating like thing that's kind of keeping me on this path. And I think it's like being able to almost like address equity in our society in some way. I think a lot of it is education. Like, what do we teach low-income children? What we're teaching them is what they are becoming, right?
Of course. Right?
What we're teaching them in schools is that, oh, you don't know this. The rich people know this. The rich white kids know this. You don't. So I think, I don't know. This is the first time I've ever thought about this question in this way. I think I would say is to like take something that people say like, oh, it's never going to change, right? This like, there's always this like, you're born poor, you grow up poor. And that's just true across the board. You're rich, you grow up rich. Like this inequity that is in society, like, to me, it's all education. What do you know? How do you use the knowledge that you know? So I think it's like taking this thing that people think of as like, it's just messed up. Public schools are messed up. It's never going to work. It's never worked for the past 30 years. And figuring out a way to like using all those gifts, using that relational skill building with people to try to like figure out a solution, figure out a way to have the next generation not fall into the same cycle that every generation before has fallen into, where like you grow up, you learn what you see, and then you just become that person. Then you have kids, you teach them the same thing, and then boom. So I think that's what I would say, and that's the first time I've ever been able to answer that.
Yeah, and and to me, it is the toughest question on our humanity walk. There's nothing about being a human that is tougher than asking why are we here. I mean, it is what it is. So it's an ever-changing question, and your purpose will be revealed to you. I believe that, but it's also you also could only be revealed a fraction of it. So
maybe it's not that. I don't know.
You never know. I mean, that's my point. Is I think I know my purpose, but I also am very conscious.
What's yours? What would you say yours is?
I truly believe if I really had to look at all of the gifts that I was given and my journey, because I was successful at an age way younger than I was prepared for. You know what I mean? I truly believe that I was placed on this earth, and obviously we'll flip roles soon and get into that. But I think I was placed on this earth to really adjust and change those people who are at an age where they're not able to be subjective to listening to others. I think I was placed on this earth to help the lives of those who are young. Why else was I the first person in my family to make six figures and I did it at 20, right? Why else was I mean, everything that I'm great at, I've said this about some athletes, man. Some of these cats are so good at the game. I was talking about Patrick Mahomes, and we talked about some of his career. I was having a great conversation with some super successful people. I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes does not work his ass off. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying you have not, and I'm not talking now. Now it's about 5-6 years in, but this is a conversation that we had in his first and second year when he won his first Super Bowl. You have not been in the league long enough that it's purely work ethic that got you this good. You are blessed. You cannot get there without blessing. Now keep in mind, you have to compound blessing with work ethic, skill set, and strategy. But you haven't been playing the game. You haven't been on this planet long enough to that work is the only reason you're here. There has to be a level of blessing and a level of just talent that was given to you, God-given talent. I was not shown enough success. I was not privy enough to enough success. And I was not on this earth long enough to be as successful as I was at such a young age. I cannot consciously say that was not a gift and what was the reason for that gift. Because every gift that we're blessed with has a reason. It has a purpose behind it, right? A great mentor of mine, his name is Santiago, talked to me about God's reason of developing someone, right? And I used to think of, if you ask me development, I used to think, oh, you make them better, right? And he told me one day, Kev, you got to understand, when God is asking you to develop someone, he's asking you to de-envelope them. It is a package that he sent to this earth well before he asked you to develop them. It's something that was within them. He sent that in a sealed envelope, and he has put people on this earth to de-envelope that. People who he has blessed with the opportunity to open that envelope and bring out what is in that envelope into this earth. I believe my purpose on this earth is exactly that. It is to take those in which are not ready or able to listen to others. Because if you would have talked to me at 19, I'm not listening to you. I'm 19. I'm fucking making bread. Like, you can't talk to me. The only person I would have listened to is someone like me. I needed to see someone like me. I needed to see a young black man who had been there and done that to really influence me. And fortunately, by the grace of God, I was blessed with a dude who literally looked like he could be my dad. And he was a father figure for me. He is still my mentor. He is still my business partner. He is still the person that I listen to. He's the loudest voice on this earth to me. His name is George Kingland. But when Santiago had that conversation with me and he said, we've gifted these people already, we've just also placed people on this earth whose job it is to de-envelope them, to develop them, everything became so clear that there is a group of people on this earth who it's my job to de-envelope their gifts, to bring their greatness into fruition. And that is the reason that I am most, by far, fascinated with greatness, because I truly believe that everyone on this planet has the opportunity and the availability to be a GOAT. Not the best ever, but the greatest them, the greatest you that there ever was. But you can only be that if you make that conscious decision to take what you've been given, to take the opportunities that you have, to take the blessings that you have been bestowed, and bring them into fruition at full effect, at full potential. Not just kind of iffy maybe. Like, to be a GOAT, to be a great in whatever it is you do, I really don't give a shit what you do. You could be a burger flipper. You could be the best burger flipper there's ever been. You have to make a conscious decision that I want to be great at this. I want to be great at this because, man, I'm telling you, and I'm just using this analogy for metaphor. If you are a burger flipper and you think that that's your calling and you think that all of your gifts align you to be a burger flipper, you may be that person at that burger joint who flips that burger for a dude who's about to commit suicide and does it so excellently and has such a great conversation at the cashier register that dude changes the entire course of his life because of the conversation, the connection he made with that cashier. You don't know that. And that's why I'm absolutely so passionate about finding people who have something that they want to do. They have something that they feel interested in. And I just want to make them great at it. And that is literally my passion. You know, it's, you want to do that, man, I want to help you do this. I want to help you do it at the highest level. I want to help you be great at it because we have no idea what impact that will make on this earth. You know what I'm saying? You never know. You absolutely never know. And obviously we'll dive into this more when my episode comes out. But, man, it all really stems from, I feel like I'm on borrowed time. I've talked about this in slider fashions. I've talked about this in pieces. But, man, I attempted suicide, and my life was saved by the grace of God. And now it's like there's a reason and a purpose that happened because he didn't have to intervene. He didn't have to make that decision to go, hey, I'm going to use work, effort, and energy to stop that from happening. And you don't do that for no reason. You don't do that, and there's a reason that he saved me. There's a reason I'm here, and it is my mission and quest, and it is my dedication in life to go. That was a good decision. Your investment has a return tenfold. So that is a tough question, right? Is the purpose of life, and it is a never answering question because as you start to be revealed more about life, your answer will begin to adjust and expand and get bigger and get different, and it's a forever question, right? So. I've got 3 easy questions for you before we get out of here. I've got some routine questions I ask every person I have a conversation with. You've sat on the other end of this, so you should have prepared yourself.
I didn't.
One restaurant every day for the rest of your life. What is it?
One restaurant.
Got to be a chain. Can't name no crap nobody's heard of. One restaurant every day, rest of your life.
Man, I heard Chris Jenkins' McDonald's answer.
Dude, I thought that was the worst answer ever. You're not about to say that, are you?
I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to say I resonated with it. I was like, I feel you, man. Sometimes I'm walking home and I'm like, I just want some
every
McDonald's.
day, though? I feel like
not
that
every day.
So
I don't.
old.
No. I'm just saying
I crave McDonald's, but dude, I think if I eat it twice, 2 days in a row, I'm like, all right, I'm fucking over this.
No, I agree with you. It's just like I understood where, like, I was like, oh yeah. I think for me it would be like.
Wait, before you say that, because I had an argument with my best friend 2 hours ago. Do you think the McRib is good?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, go ahead.
A chain. I would give me. I have to go with like a Subway place. I think I'm not Subway.
A sandwich shop.
Like a sandwich shop. I go with like Jimmy John's or something.
You were so close until you weren't.
To not Jimmy John's.
You think Jimmy John's is the best sandwich shop?
No, I was just naming the first one that came to my top of the head. I wanted to say Subway, but then I was like, let me say something that's not
answer.
Subway.
And if you don't
McAllister's? No? You going, what, Panera?
Jersey Mike's.
Jersey Mike's. Okay.
I don't think there's any sandwich shop messing with Jersey Mike's. I think Jersey Mike's is the best sub sandwich shop that's chained. I think second to that is Firehouse.
I like Firehouse. To me, it's like a sandwich joint that offers like variety of carbs.
Jersey Mike's only has one bread option. It's too dense. And if you're talking about variety, their only spread is mayo. That's it.
No, then no.
You go to Jersey Mike's, they got honey mustard, they got ranch, they got all types of options.
Yeah.
But, man, a lot of people say Jersey Mike's is cool because it used to be the only place that delivered. Back in the day, we only ordered pizza because they delivered.
Talking like you 50 years old, bro.
But you know what I'm talking about. Back in the day, pizza was an option because they delivered. Now, DoorDash delivers anything.
Yeah.
But back in the day, let's be honest, there were times we didn't want pizza. We just knew that they would bring it to you.
Yeah.
Same reason Jersey Mike's even made it as big as they were is because they delivered. Now everybody delivers. You know, so.
For me, it was like I feel like a sandwich shop offers enough variety for me to like enjoy, like to just have like. I do
think that I could eat sandwiches every day for the rest of my life. I do believe
there's enough variety where you're like.
Yeah, and I don't think you get tired of the sandwich.
Meat.
Yeah, you don't get tired of sandwiches. Yeah. That's a good answer. I'll take that. Dream car, money's not an option. What is it?
I don't know. I don't think about cars that much. Something to me, the answer is like the car with the most amount of fuel efficiency. That's how I see it.
A Prius? You driving a Prius?
No.
You look like you drive a Prius.
I drive a Civic, Honda Civic.
Yeah.
Close.
Civics get about 33 miles a gallon.
Yeah, I think if I really like, my dad has a truck that he's let me borrow for the last couple. Like we've been moving a lot of stuff. We just we're helping my girlfriend's parents moved. We're like a lot of moving is happening, and I think having like a nice truck like a Ford, F-150 or something, or F-250, like something nice, it's very functional. I'm a very
versatile,
functional, versatile, like something that can help me get stuff done, as opposed to like something that looks nice and I can like impress people with. To me, that's like I've impressed people enough with like my whole upbringing. Like I'm tired of impressing people.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like give me something that's really functional and versatile. So I think like a Ford, a really nice truck that's like.
Yeah. Okay, last question. You ready?
Yeah.
I want you to paint to me in as much detail as you can the best day possible for you. How does it begin? What's happening? This is the dream day. This is the day that if you died today and God came to you and said, I'm going to give you one more day on earth and you can do whatever you want, just tell me what you want. What does it look like?
I think I wake up. Kind of like wake up to like you wake up and you're kind of like sleepy still, so you go back to sleep, right?
Okay.
You wake up and then I see my girlfriend.
Okay.
In the bed right there next to me, looking at her, see her, talk to her, like just see her face. And then we wake up, we make some.
Where are we at?
We're just at home, bro.
At the crib.
Yeah, or I mean, honestly, I would like if.
Remember, you're telling God, He's gonna give you what you want. You got to tell Him what you want. You're at home.
So give me. We're at a travel spot somewhere, right?
Is it hot? Is it cold?
I don't know where. I think it's like.
Is it the beach?
I think it's like beach vibes. It's like summer vibes. It's like nice sun. Like it's not hot, but it's like 75, 80 degrees, right?
We're in a hotel. We're in a cabana. What are we in?
Give me an Airbnb that feels like home.
Okay.
An Airbnb that has a kitchen that you can wake up, make some coffee. We like make some breakfast together. We sit, we eat.
What are we eating?
We're eating like beans and eggs and like scrambled eggs with like the stuff you grow up on.
The Immigrant started with beans.
Yeah, bro.
Right.
Give me beans, eggs. Give me some tortillas.
Some chorizo,
man. Literally, bro. I'm telling you, it's like, yeah.
Okay.
Give me that. We eat, we sit, we like watch some. I don't even care what show it is. We just watch something together that we can talk about.
Okay.
And then after that, we lounge around for some more, and then we go see our parents, both of our parents. And they
at the beach too.
They can be at the beach. We can invite them over. Like it's just spending time with them. I love board games, so maybe like we invite them over for some board games, play, laugh about whatever pointless things. And my parents are there, her parents are there, my sister's there, and we're all just kind of having this like good time board games. And then give me some. They leave, then we have like me and my girlfriend, like intimate dancing or like just seeing each other, and like that's to me is like that's my perfect day, is just like spending it with her, seeing the people we care about, doing things that we enjoy. Maybe go on a walk on the beach, holding hands, like sunsets coming down over the ocean, just like talking about. It doesn't even matter what we're talking about.
Just with each other.
I think that's
end of your perfect night before you go back to heaven. What are we having for dinner? McDonald's?
Not McDonald's. Give me some more beans, man. Bro, my mom will tell you, if you ever talk to my mom, she will tell you, when I was a kid, I would eat beans, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, bean burritos with like... Beaned up, man. So give me some more beans, some cheese, quesadillas maybe, like some more tortillas are in there, some chocolate milk is in there for sure somewhere.
All right.
And I think that's what I got right now.
So you had your perfect day, and then you go back to God, and then you're just farting up heaven, huh? Beans and chocolate milk. God, like, bro, send him back. Get him out of here, man. Send him back. All right, man.
That's what I got.
That's the perfect day. Now we know you. We know your character. We know how you think. We know how you tick. So we're going to get out of here, man. I just want to do one quick toast, man, to this episode and to the future success of Elevate1 Media and the Elevate1 podcast.
Of course, man.
Thank you all you guys for joining. Love you guys.
Take it easy.